I have counted for 412 years, and in that time I have filled 11,000 rows. You will not believe that number until you have done it yourself, until your hands know the weight of the chisel the way mine do, until you have knelt at a tally stone so old the carving order before yours is a rumor and not a name. But you asked me about the empty row. Everyone asks, eventually. I will tell you once, and you will not ask me again. The counting hall is older than the Threvian compact, older than the moon it is cut into if the geologists are honest, which they rarely are when the truth makes them small. Every claimed world in the reachable dark gets a row, species, date of claim, date of consolidation, the counting mark that says this one is ours now, this one is finished, move on. It is not glamorous work. It was never meant to be. We are not soldiers. We are not even historians, not really. We are the ones who write down that something is over. You have stood at the blank stone. Everyone your age stands at it within their first season, runs a finger along the groove where a row should be and isn't, and asks the older counters what happened. Most of them tell you it was never claimed. A clerical gap, they'll say. An oversight from before the founding charter, when the order was young and sloppy, and half the moon's archive was still being carved by torchlight. That is not true. I am the only one left who knows it is not true, because I am the only one left who asked to see the sealed ledger, and the seal let me through. I do not know why it let me through. I have stopped wondering. Some doors open for the counter who is going to die soon enough that the order trusts her with the weight. The row was filled once. I found the entry behind glass that had not been touched in longer than the compact has existed under that name. A single line, dated in a counting hand none of us use any more, the strokes thinner and more careful than ours, as if the hand that made them already understood it was writing something dangerous. Claimed asterisk, it read in the old tense, a date, a world. And beneath that, where the counting mark should sit, the symbol that says asterisk finished, consolidated hours, there was no mark at all. There was a scar. Someone had taken a blade to the stone after the claim was logged, after the ink had dried, and gone at the mark until it was gone, not erased the way you erase a mistake, quickly, carelessly. Scraped. Worked at, stroke by stroke, the way you work at something you are afraid will come back if you leave any of it standing. I have seen old battle stones with less violence done to their surface. Whoever struck that mark did not want it gone. They needed it gone, the way you need a wound cauterized before you can stand to look at it. I asked the seal keeper what species had made the original claim. She would not tell me, not because she did not know, because the order had decided, a very long time ago, that some answers are heavier than the question deserves. She did show me the request log, the brittle column of names stretching back further than I could read by lamplight, every counter who had ever asked the seal to open for them. I ran my finger down it the way I had run it along the blank groove on the wall, and I counted, out of habit more than purpose. 206 counters across 10,000 years had stood where I stood and asked to see what the ledger held. 206 had read the same entry, traced the same scar, and signed the log on the way out without a single annotation beside their name. What she would tell me in the end was this. Every counter who has ever requested that ledger has read the same entry, has seen the same scar, and not one of them, not one, in 10,000 years of an order that argues about everything, has ever proposed filling that row again. Think about what that means. We are an order built entirely on the impulse to finish things. It is the only impulse we have. Give us an unclaimed world, and within a generation someone will have proposed an expedition, a survey, a polite first approach, anything to close the gap. We cannot help it. It itches at us the way an unfinished sentence itches at you now. And for 10,000 years, across every administration, every reform, every purge of the old guard, not a single counter has stood up in this hall and said send someone to finish the earth row. That is the word, by the way, earth. It sits there in the old hand, small and plain, no honorific, no warning glyph, nothing to mark it as different from any of the 11,000 rows I have filled myself. That is what frightened me most, the first time I read it. It looks ordinary. It is filed like every other world we have ever closed the book on. The only thing that separates it from the rest of the hall is the scar where the ending should be. I went looking for what happened to the claimant species. That much the order keeps no secret about because there is nothing left to protect. They are gone. Not scattered, not subjugated, not folded into some larger polity the way conquered species sometimes are. Gone, the way a candle is gone after the wick burns down, no ash, no record of where the wax went, just an absence where a flame used to be. Their language survives in 3 borrowed words. Their architecture survives in nothing. Their claim survives in 1 scarred line on 1 stone, in a hall most of the galaxy has forgotten exists. I do not know what they found there. I want to be honest with you about that, because lying to a junior counter is the one thing this order has never forgiven. I do not know if they sent a fleet, or a single envoy, or simply a flag bearer expecting an empty world to plant a marker on. The ledger does not say, and I have come to believe the omission is deliberate, the same way the scar is deliberate. Someone, a very long time ago, decided that the manner of the ending mattered less than the fact of it, and that the fact of it should be enough to keep every counter after them from trying again. It has been enough. For 10,000 years it has been enough. You want to know why I am telling you this and not letting you find the ledger yourself, the way I found it. Because you are young, and the itch is strong in you, stronger than it was in me at your age, and I have watched what that itch does to a junior counter who has not yet learned to be afraid of a closed door. I do not want you standing where I stood, reading a scraped-out mark by lamplight, understanding for the first time that some rows are left blank not because no one has gotten around to them, but because every counter who came before you weighed the itch against the scar and chose, every single time, to let the itch loose. The stone is patient. I have come to believe that, too, in my old age, though I cannot prove it and would not write it in any ledger. It has sat blank for 10,000 years, and it will sit blank for 10,000 more, and it does not care which of us stands in front of it wondering. It only waits to see whether this generation, like every generation before it, has the sense to leave the wound alone. So here is your inheritance, the only one I have to give you. When you are old and some junior counter stands where you are standing now and asks why the row by the east wall has no mark, you will not tell them it was an oversight. You will not let the comfortable lie stand, the way it stood for me until I went looking. You will tell them what I am telling you, that the row was filled once, that someone scraped the ending off the stone with their own hand rather than let it remain, and that in 10,000 years, no one who has read that scar has ever asked to write a new one beside it. You may be tempted, someday, to ask whether the scar is a warning meant for us, or a wound the claimant species left behind for reasons that had nothing to do with our order at all, a private grief, scraped into stone by survivors who could not bear to see their own failure made permanent. I have turned that question over more nights than I will admit to you. It does not matter which is true. A warning and a grief look the same on old stone, and they ask the same thing of the counter who finds them. Leave it be. Some claims are not unfinished business. Some claims are finished business that nobody since has had the courage to look at twice. The hall does not need that row filled to be complete. It needs that row left exactly as it is, an absence shaped like a warning, kept by hands too patient to forget what made it. Leave the row blank. Teach the next one to leave it blank. That is the whole of the lesson, and it is the only row in this hall I have ever been glad, in 412 years, that I did not have to fill myself.